Hello gamers, welcome to Mage Hammer's Game Table. Tonight something a little different for a video. I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my Pulp RPG collection. I have an extensive number of them, over 30 I guess, and I guess you'll be seeing those as we go. Some in print, some in PDF, and I have arranged them roughly chronologically as they were published and released. So, we're going to begin with what I could find to be one of the first Pulp RPGs, and it was published in the pages of Dragon Magazine. It was Crime Fighters by David Cook. Looks like it used percentile dice. Has some really cool art from, the luminaries back then, Willingham, Jeff D. So some really cool art in here. And, their first attempt at what I could find to be any kind of Pulp RPG. If you know of a Pulp RPG that came out before 1981, please leave it in the comments below. I'd be fascinated to know what that is. And so it even has a nice little adventure, and so pretty cool. So that is my first Pulp RPG in the list. Now, that isn't my first RPG. This one, I believe, is the first Pulp RPG I got, which is GangBusters, which came out in 1982. I bought this back then. This is my original book, my original one. And it's 1920s. It's got Tommy guns, so I call it Pulp. And I don't know if they necessarily advertised it as Pulp, but they definitely, it definitely fits in that genre as far as I'm concerned. Some really cool art, some really cool stuff in there. Once again, from the heyday of what I believe is the heyday of TSR, and that is GangBusters. It's, it came with these little maps, these little chit characters. A city map, kind of almost like and it came in the Adventure Mad Dog Johnny Drake, special introductory. Had all the streets and so forth for chase scenes and everything. And I got the chits in there too. So that's GangBusters, 1982. I played it back in the day. I never played Crime Fighters, by the way. Most of these I have not played, and I'll be talking about them as I go. GangBusters we played a little bit when I was a kid, but I was like middle school. But I think we only played it once or twice. But that was GangBusters. Next up on my list is Mercenaries, Spies, and Private Eyes, based on the Tunnels and Trolls system. And it is designed by Michael A. Stackpole, who, of course, is a luminary in the RPG and fiction, and he was big into Star Wars novels and stuff like that. Did a lot of work for Flying Buffalo. So this is, of course, a more recent printed edition. It looks like they reprinted it in 2019, but it originally came out in 1983. Now, I didn't play this when it came out then. I recently got into Tunnels and Trolls. Believe it or not, I didn't get into Tunnels and Trolls till maybe 10 years ago. And so when I found out they had a Pulp, like Noir, Pulp, whatever, role-playing game, I, of course, jumped right on it to add it to my collection. I have never played it. But for all of these games, I definitely use them for my own Pulp RPG happening. Let's see, science fiction environments, Pulp adventures. Yeah, so this is almost a more spy thing, but it does mention Pulp and it has Pulp play, so I count it as one of my Pulp RPGs. So there you go. Next up, one I did play quite a bit when I was a kid, and this is my original set, plus I inherited part of it, was The Adventures of Indiana Jones role-playing game. So, yeah. And this is a rule book with the introductory adventure, The Icons of Ikamonen, which frankly is one of my favorite Indiana Jones stories of all time by John Byrne. It was a comic book series, a limited comic book series. It's just awesome. So they took that comic story and they put it into this. See, it has movie stills as the artwork, types of combat, It uses a percentile system. Not quite like Top Secret, but it has its own percentile system. Wounds, a lot of cool stuff from the movies. What do I got here? Oh, character background sheet. This is, cut this out. Oh my gosh, opening. Hope I made a copy first. Marion, this is Marion's character sheet. That's kind of what a character sheet looked like. 20 squares. Equipment. The world of Indiana Jones. That's kind of neat. Balancing adventure. A little bit of tips on prepping for an adventure, because I assume they figured that this might be picked up by somebody who was a fan of the movies, but they didn't quite know much about role-playing, so they gave them lots to work with. And then, so that looks like Dangerous Events. Wait, where's the Money and Travel, the World of Indiana Jones? Secrets of the Icons. So, yeah. And then they used art from the different movies, but they didn't use the art from the comic book for that. Then I got a module, Raiders of the Lost Ark, pretty much in place. Got some battle maps. They were pretty big into battle maps back then for this game. I've got Temple of Doom. So, the adventure. This didn't come with the core book, of course. I had to buy these later as they came out, of course. And you can play the movies, so that's fun. With some really cool maps, an area map, and some internal maps. You know, it's been a long since yeah, and then here's a map of the mine. So that's pretty cool. Some really good art in there, or stills from the movie. Yeah, and Club Obi-Wan. It's great. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with this back in the day. Played with some of my friends around here. Didn't play a ton of it. The system was different from Dungeons & Dragons, which is what we were most familiar with. But we tried. We stumbled through. Came with a Game Master screen. Pretty cool. With some... this is the Icons of Ikaman, and that's from that story. And of course, that's from Raiders. And that's probably from Raiders or Temple of Doom. And that is, it came with the screen. That was in the core rules. They came out with this really cool map where you could put the airplane for that famous airplane scene from Raiders. Then I got the Judge's Survival Pack. I bought this as well. It's an accessory. It has like a bunch of tables and some extra information on creating your own adventures and so forth. So that was fun. Then here were the stuff that came with the core set. I never really cut these out, or if I did, I like that. Like, look at that background. I never cut them out, or if I did, I cut out my original ones. But like I said, I came into another one sometime around the way. Here I made my own folder. This is a lot of the handouts, some cars in the plane and everything. You can play Raiders of the Lost Ark. Here's character dossiers, they call them, for character sheets. Really, really cool for back then. Oh, I made my own character, Tristan Dare. Okay, cool. Jock Lindsay. I hate snakes, Jock. I hate him. That's just my pet snake, Reggie. Okay, so yeah. So I made photocopies of these as well, and then cut them out. I made an NPC, natives, Wuhan, a villain, and Captain Katanga. Great betrayer. Player maps. So all this stuff came with either the core set or the adventures as you went. Take another look there at Indiana Jones. And I made my own Indiana Jones adventure folder and added different dossiers for NPCs and so forth. And I think some of this other stuff came, see, this came with the module, and this other stuff came with I think those came in the survival kit or one of the adventures. And I got another rule book. Like I said, I came into a second copy of this at some point. I just put it all together. So pretty cool stuff there. That's the stuff when you put it together finally. So that did come from the survival pack. But that is probably my second Pulp RPG. And it's a good one, folks. And like I said, we did play it a little bit and so forth. So yeah. Anyway, all right, next up. All right, now, this one holds a very special place in my heart. one of the things that really addicted me to beyond Indiana Jones. So Indiana Jones, okay, got it. And then I started reading The Spider when they came out with a bunch of those novels like in the 80s or 90s. They reprinted a bunch of them. I have almost all of them, I think. But then Flint Dille and I can never remember the other dude's name. He is a Hollywood scriptwriter. Darn it. Anyway, so they I read Flint Dille's like memoirs, and it's a really good book. You should look into it if you're interested in TSR, especially because he hung out with Gary Gygax quite a bit. And in fact, if you're a fan of the Gore the Road novels, Shirt the Barbarian is named after Flint. Flint and Shirt both are, stones. Anyway, this is written for the Top Secret system, which was out back then. And this is 1988. This is the year I graduated high school. I love Agent 13. Those novels, I read them once every 2 years or so. I can't get enough of them. They are exactly, Flint Dille said they basically took everything, they consumed pulp magazines and then finally sat down to write their own pulp story, and it came out Agent 13, which is just amazing. And I was in contact with Flint Dille on Facebook not too long ago, asking him if there was going to be any more Agent 13, and he said, well, that's funny you should ask. We talked about it, but I don't think anything's been solidified. I know he has other projects underway. But Agent 13, they're on Kindle. The books are on Kindle. You can read them there. If you can find them, they're a little bit more expensive on the secondary market. I have my copies, and I'm never going to let them go because I love Agent 13. Oh, Pulp 2.0 published an entire omnibus of the 3 novels. You can buy that on Amazon in print for $12, $13, $15. I can't remember. I have 2 copies of it. Anyway, but this is the Agent 13 source book. We played Top Secret a little bit, but we were done playing Top Secret by the time this came out. But at the same time, I had to have it, of course, just for the background stuff on Agent 13, because I love Agent 13. And reportedly, Charlize Theron has the rights to the Agent 13 movie rights, but they're sitting around doing nothing, and I really wish they would. I wish they would come out in an animated series, to be fair. I think that would be the best way to approach this. There's a graphic novel for this. I have that as well. I pretty much have everything Agent 13 that was published because it's my favorite. Anyway, I draw inspiration from it in my own pulp stories and pulp games. So this is Agent 13 source book. That was 1988. Moving on. So this came out in 2001. Dime Heroes. I have the PDF, but I printed them out because I was playing this solo back in the day, and it is by James Stubbs. And the 1PG system was Todd Downing. I was really into this stuff for a while in the beginning of 2000s. Once D&D 3.0 came out, people started coming out with all kinds of stuff. And so I printed this out, and it is a fairly rules light system. It's got some really good adventures in it that I would use for my own pulp adventures if I'm running them. And on that note, I have run mostly solo pulp adventures, but I've run 1 or 2 pulp adventures for my friends, but most of them were like a cosmic horror pulp thing, which I'll be getting to, of course. So this is really cool. You can still get this on Drive-Thru RPG. I also got, for this series, Jungle Adventures by James Stubbs, playing jungle characters like Tarzan, What to Do with Natives, Lost Civilizations, cool stuff like that. So that's an expansion. And then Magics and Mysticism. They didn't bake the magic right into the pulp because sometimes pulp had magic in it, sometimes it didn't, or was more mysterious or whatever. But, of course, there were some pulp out there that had magicians, and so they give you some adventures and some stuff on how to do that. There may be other expansions. Those are the only 2 I know of. This game is pretty fun. After a while, I think it started to lack, since I've played it, I think it started to lack a little bit extra depth, but ultimately it's really cool and it's really well put out. Obviously, this is in color. I have it on PDF, but I'm not going to bring that up. So that's Dime Heroes 2001. Now, this next game I only have in PDF, and way back in the day, I don't know if you guys ever heard of something called D20 Modern, which came out after 3.5 for a Modern. In the Polyhedron magazine, I probably even have this issue because I had a subscription to Polyhedron/Dragon at one point. This came out in 2002. Some of the other stuff I read said it was 2003, but this is Pulp Hero Modern. And they put it, it's a really cool way that they presented it in the magazine. So they do it as if it really is a pulp magazine reporting on the pulps, but while they do it, it's basically the role-playing game. They called them mini games when they were published in Polyhedron back then, and this is obviously a scan, but it's a good scan. I don't know where I found this online somewhere. But it uses the D20 3.5 system, D20 modern system. So these are character classes. See how clever a Dame with class. They really did it in that. And, you know, and you can see, there you go. There's the classic D20 modern stuff. Like I said, the scan's pretty decent. Different archetypes. They call them classes here. A lot of pulp games call them archetypes, but we'll get to that. So the art is obviously Wizards of the Coast level cool. I love that picture. Skills and 1,000 skills, 1,000 kills. You know, so really cool pulpy titles and so forth. Great art for a magazine. Like, well, those magazines you guys know were awesome. Those of you that are of a certain age and had subscriptions or at least bought them now and then at the game shops. So equipment and so forth. So there you go. And it even has a powers, gadgets, and there's the original covers. And then they even came out, they even added this, they went back and revisited it to kind of bring it back up to whatever D20 modern style system they had brought it up to. So that's cool. So that's all over the place. So anyway, Dave Noonan apparently was the main driver behind this. And this is D20 modern, prestige classes, you know, all that D20 modern stuff. It has all kinds of stuff in it. So it's really kind of neat. And, ooh, look, there's Lovecraft. Hey, Lovecraft. And so that is D20 Modern Pulp Heroes. So that is my collection. Of course, I've never played this, but I have, once again, I draw inspiration from all of these games. So that was 2002 Pulp Heroes D20 Modern. Okay, next, the granddaddy, Savage Worlds. I don't know if granddaddy is the word. How about great uncle? I don't know. This came out, this is first edition. This came out in 2004. And it is very, a lot of people use it for pulp adventures. And many of the games I'm about to show you in my collection use this core set as their driving engine. I have every edition of Savage Worlds in print, and this is the most recent Savage Worlds Adventure Edition role-playing game. And of course, they've updated and so forth. And if I were to ever use Savage Worlds for pulp again, which I have run pulp games with Savage Worlds, obviously I wouldn't be using first edition. I just want to show this because this is the original grand uncle of Savage Worlds, and it's very pulpy. It's great for running pulp, and it won the Origins Award. So nice. This was 2004. Of course, they came out with this, what, 2020? The Kickstarter. I got this on the Kickstarter. It doesn't necessarily. 2019. So the most recent edition, as far as I can tell, is 2019. And that's Savage Worlds. Now, Savage Worlds, I mean, I don't think it needs any introduction at this point in the world. So, but I will say it's great for running pulp. It's Savage Worlds. I've run fantasy, I've run sci-fi, I've run pulp. And it's just gotten to a point now where I think it's just a teeny bit fiddly, but ultimately it's a great system. And if you saw in my series that I did on one-shot fantasy run-throughs, I ran a Savage Worlds fantasy game. All right, next up is D6 system. They have a book. I have it in a PDF called D6 Adventure, but since I had the print book, I thought I would do it here. You can it's pretty much a universal system using D6s. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It became extremely famous with the original Star Wars role-playing game, West End Games. And this was still a West End Games publication. They released this as the core system after trying to redo it. And as a note, Gallant Knight Games, one of my favorite game companies, is putting out the next edition of this, and it's on Kickstarter right now, or yeah, Kickstarter. And I've backed up the PDF, and so if you're interested in the resurrection of D6 system, they're running a pretty good campaign over there, so you might want to check that out. Shout out Gallant Knight Games. But this is coming back. This system, of course, uses D6s, and if you're a fan of this channel, you know D6s are like my favorite way to design games and to play games, really. Even more than the D20. Sorry, kids. Anyway, it just was too fiddly for me. I tried to run it solo, and it just got overwhelming to me at some point. I think yeah. So anyway, but it's still a great system. I'm really excited to see what Galvanite Games is doing with it. Hopefully they streamline it a little bit, and maybe I'll get it to the table and you'll see it here on the channel. Okay, then that brings us to 2006. Let's see. Thrilling Tales 1E. So this Thrilling Tales, I believe, has come out for both D20. This is the omnibus. So this came out in 2006. The original Thrilling Tales came out in 2006. This omnibus edition came out. See if they have the year on this. Has the OGL because it's D20. Yeah. Anyway, so this is this was oh, I can't remember the name of the company. Wait a second, where are they? Adamant Entertainment. They put out some really great stuff for Savage World. That's how I got in. And then they came out with Thrilling Tales for D20. And this is the omnibus edition. So it contains all the stuff that they had released for the D20 level. It explains Pulp Adventure. Many of these Pulp games will eventually explain Pulp Adventure, especially because so many people didn't necessarily, so it gives that. This has 217-page PDF. It gives a nice timeline. And this is D20 Modern. I also have Thrilling Tales 2nd edition, which I believe was released for Savage Worlds. But this will be enough here. I've never played this game, but like I said, I use all of them for inspiration. And I just love the pulp aesthetic. I just love it. It's just my... I guess fantasy is truly my first love, but pulp is my second love. And I really like superhero games too, and cosmic horror games. But pulp it just does it for me. So anyway, so you have all this stuff, as you can see, all kinds of interesting classes, prestige classes, I think. Advanced class, they call them advanced classes. Okay, and inspiration on how to run games, pulp gaming rules. They have a minions rule, they have stunts and actions, all kinds of stuff. So this is a really good product, and a great place to draw inspiration from. Sorry for that notification. I forgot to shut off notifications on this tablet before I brought it up. Ooh, is that a Doc Savage? Looks like Doc Savage. So Pulp Villains. So there. So that's Thrilling Tales. I think you get the idea. Some really cool stuff. Creating cults, creating the enemies, all kinds of information on how to help run your adventures. A lot of it, a lot of pulp systems do provide pulp generators, adventure generators, which I think is great. And I'm constantly mining those for my own adventures. So, oh, Nazis, Chapter 8. They get a whole chapter to themselves. Of course, Nazis are some of the most famous pulp enemies ever, thanks to Indiana Jones. So they got a whole section on them here. And plot threads and so forth. Thuggy cults. Oh, I wonder where they have that in there. Oh, yeah, Indiana Jones. So that is Thrilling Tales, the Omnibus Edition. And I'm going to include 2nd edition in there. I'm not going to bring it up for you, but you get the idea. That's for D20 as well as Savage Worlds. All right. Still staying in 2006. Now, I am not a huge fan of the Fate system. I think it's just not for me. But this game is oozing pulp, Spirit of the Century. They call it a pulp pickup role-playing game. It came out in 2006, and it just had, sentient gorillas, magic users, gadgets. The Fate system is not my favorite, but I still love it. And like I said, I mine it for the lore and to get as many ideas as I possibly can. Plus, I just love pulp everything, and I love their take on it. So you've got your character setups here: Gentleman Criminal, Gadget Guy, Jungle Lord, Man of Mystery, Operator. Yeah. So there's that. Great art, of course. Evil Hack Games has great art. They have great production values from their games. And aspects, how the Fate system works. 400 and some pages, this rule book, man. It's got all kinds of stuff in it. So, chase scenes. So it has all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can go back to the table of contents, but I mean, look at that cover. It's just awesome. Yeah, so how to do things, stunts, skills, gadgets and gizmos, running the game, tips and tricks, keeping it pulpy. Always a favorite phrase of mine. In a sample scenario, the Nether Agenda. So It's got pretty much everything you need. And that is Spirit of the Century, and it came out in 2006. Okay, moving on to this one, Hollow Earth Expedition, Pulp Adventure role-playing game. You can't have a collection of Pulp games without having Hollow Earth Expedition. Now this is quite a tome, folks. Just like most of these other games I'm showing you, it has it runs its own. They call it, was it the Unity system? I think it was called. It's called the Unity system. Exile Game Studios. Jeff Combos was the main driver behind it. It was originally 2006. I think this edition is, or this particular printing is from 2013, but the game originally came out in 2006, according to that. Anyway, I think they called it the Unity system. I could be wrong. Anyway, so you roll any kind of dice you want, and you're looking for evens. So, and then your characters, you know, they have all kind. I mean, they pretty much cover all the pulp you would want in just this one game as well. It's got some really cool characters, government agencies. It also has Hollow Earth, thus the name. Lots of stuff going on in Hollow Earth, a bestiary. It also has sample adventures. The Hollow Earth Expedition itself. So you go to the Hollow Earth. I ran one of these for, I think I ran the Hollow Earth Expedition one for a group at one point, but I didn't use this system. I used another system, but I just used their adventure. Pulp Resource and Inspiration, that's good. Anytime you have that in the back of a pulp thing, it's good. Several of these have this. So that is Hollow Earth Expedition. Very, very pulpy, of course, covering all aspects of pulp, and it's a fun little resource. And that was 2006. Now we're moving to 2007. So this is Savage Worlds, but it's the Savage World of Solomon Kane, Robert E. Howard's creation from the pulp magazines. And he is a witch hunter from back in the 1700s, I think it is. And it captured my imagination. And he hunts beasts, demons, all kinds of various horrible creatures. And of course, the production value coming from Pinnacle Entertainment Group is massively awesome. And this is a really good source book for that time era. So if you want to run like a Victorian or even earlier than Victorian pulp game, this is the one for you. And it's a really great book. It's got so much in it. But it ultimately runs on the Savage Worlds engine. And gives you some tips on how to run an adventure based on so long ago. Gives you all kinds of people, how to travel, the old world, some maps, cults, bad guys, the Dark Continent, the New World. You can travel to many places. Solomon Kane traveled to many places. I have an omnibus of the stories, and I've read several of them to kind of get in the mood. I ran this solo for myself. It worked out pretty well, but I really much only ran one adventure. Savage Worlds is not always the best system to run solo, in my opinion. Oh, magic token. Oh, nice. All right, so all kinds of a bestiary. There's my characters: Gareth Saxon and Alistair Whitcomb and Cassandra Dark. So those were the characters I made using Savage Worlds of Solomon Kane, but a different kind of play on the pulp, but still pulp in my book. All right, next up, moving into 2008, once again, a Savage Worlds run game. Ravaged Earth, a world of high-powered pulp. Now, the conceit for this is that the year is 1936. Our world is one where uncommon is ordinary and extraordinary. And what happened was the Martians came in 1898, so it kind of plays off that H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. But they defeated them, but all that technology that the Martians left there, humans took it, and that's where like gadgets come from, and there were other aliens, and it's a really fun campaign setting, but it's not quite the same campaign setting as your usual pulps. It's a very specific style pulp. With like a lot more science technology stuff, weird science, I guess you call it in Savage Worlds parlance. And it is, yeah, so it has all kinds of stuff. Traps, lots of great information on the way the world works in the Ravaged Earth, which also does come in handy for like, it's just a bit skewed from our real world if you're looking for real world pulp. If you're looking for a, yeah, so you have more like superheroes kind of thing because of the Martian technology. So, but you know, you got a Rocketeer guy here, Rocket Ranger, the Masked Avenger. So it's got your archetypes, your heroes, magic, gadgeteers, G-Man, archaeologist, ace reporter, that kind of stuff. So it has all kinds of cool stuff running off the Savage Worlds engine. And it was the Eric Avedissian, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, decided that it's his campaign world, and it's a lot of fun. I've never played in it, but I have read it, and it's a good read. I'm a fan of the channel. Bob just made a cameo here on this video. He's been messaging me about stuff. All right, staying in 2008, yet another Savage Worlds pulp. It's the day after Ragnarok. So roughly after World War II, I think it is, Ragnarok happens. Ragnarok, of course, is the Norse end of the world. And it's when the great snake, whatever his name is, Gorgomanthor, or whatever his name is. Anyway, so the huge snake hits Earth and dies. And then all the different political entities of the time try to mine the snake for technologies and create new technologies and continue World War II. So it's a 1940s style pulp, but it's got a lot of cool, it's still pulp, it's just a different flavor of pulp, much like Ravaged Earth. A lot of crazy things start happening in the world after that snake. To lead up to the snake, it gives Adventure Generator, which is pretty good. I've mined that before taking a look at it. So it's got all that running on the Savage Worlds, on the Savage Worlds engine, and it's the day after Ragnarok. I think they came out with this for another system as well, from Atomic Overmind Press and Kenneth Haidt, whose name I'm sure you're familiar with. So that's the day after Ragnarok, and that was 2008. Continuing like this theme here, Savage Worlds. Okay, so this is Realms of Cthulhu, which is Sean Preston and Reality Blur's attempt to create his own Cthulhu game using the Savage Worlds engine. I went to Origins in 2010, and I played in a game run by Sean Preston, and I had him sign my book for me. And Ed was there as well, so I got his picture, or his autograph. So this is like, I think it's one of the only autographed RPG things I actually own. Anyway, so this is Cosmic Horror. However, you can run it pulpy, and that's how I ran it. It's got great production, and it runs on Savage Worlds, but a very modified Savage Worlds. I'm trying to get to the one part. Gritty variants. Here they are. Pulp variant, the pulpy variant. You're a little bit easier on your players rather than Cosmic Horror, because this game can go full-on Cosmic Horror, or you can do pulpy and actually have a chance to fight back that evil, much like Pulp Cthulhu and the Call of Cthulhu series. But I really liked it. I bought it. I played it. I played it at Origins with the creators. Here's some of my characters I did. Hank Jeffries, Private Investigator. It's got a nice bestiary. Here's Miskatonic University admissions, investigators' dossiers, Hank Jeffries' character sheet, and Dr. Septimus Walls of Miskatonic University. Some campaign notes. And you can convert Call of Cthulhu to the Savage Worlds. They give you a really good conversion, because they know people are going to be playing that. It's like setting rules. I've given my own setting rules and made a handout for my characters, or for my players. So that's Realms of Cthulhu, yet another Savage Worlds game that you can play pulp. Is kind of pulp horror, but it's still pulp. And so you could probably run it pulp without the horror part. And that was 2009. Moving into 2010, yes, that's right, kids. Yet another Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds, like I said, is really good for running pulp, and people have really made it their own. Now, I have all these compendiums. There's 4 compendiums. I have them all in print and also on PDF. I use them for solo play because they're really fun. And, you know, Paul Wade Williams, I believe, is from the UK. He put out a lot of really cool stuff, Space Pulp and this pulp and so forth. And he comes out with a bunch of different adventures. But before the adventures, he put in his setting rules, which are very pulpy: never-ending ammo, heroic combat, henchmen, cinematic death, that kind of stuff. So that makes this pulp, but they just ooze pulpiness. I really like them. I have 4 compendiums. I'm only showing this one off here. Daring Tales of Adventure for the Savage Worlds engine, but very, very pulpy, and it's a lot of fun. Has a lot of cool stuff to pull from for your own pulp games. So that was Daring Tales of Adventure. Dicey Tales. Now, to my knowledge, this game was put out in 2011, but just became available for print on Amazon, which I bought. This came in the Amazon truck just a couple days ago. Jeff, I've never been able to pronounce his name. I've looked at a lot of his stuff over the years. Jeff Magia, I don't know. Somebody help me out with that. So it's Dicey Tales. It is a pulp game, but it's based on the rules for Barbarians of Lemuria game system put together by Simon Washburn. And Barbarians of Lemuria, and I think it's a 2d6 system, which also appeals to me. But once again, a lot of games these days, I'm a very minimalist player, so I love to buy and collect pulp RPGs, but I use them for my own systems and games and preferred systems. So this is basically Barbarians Lemuria system, the Everwen system, I think it's called. Maybe it has a big name. The engine, Fluid Barbarians of Lemuria rules engine. Okay, so and also, but the cool thing is it has creature ideas. Sometimes you get weird power boons, and it also has wonderfully laid out adventures that you can run pretty much in any system, really. And that's one of the reasons I do it. So this is Dicey Tales, yet another pulp RPG, and that came out in 2011, but print version for me just came out 2 days ago. All right, now this one is a very small game. I found it on Drive-Thru RPG. It is pretty much the kind of game, it's got the kind of presentation that I'm proud of, that I did for my own Delves and Dangers game. Just pretty much the game, some words, and have fun. I've never played it. It's just kind of makes me, it kind of inspired me. This is the way I'm going to publish my own, because I can't afford art. So I just put out the words and I make the game. And so Delves and Dangers was very much along. This is a 2-page pulp system. I've read it. It's very minimalist, and it's kind of cool, but I've never played it. But there you go. Pulp the RPG 2013. Like I said, I don't have much else except that it's in my collection. But check it out. I think it's relatively cheap. All right. Now, BRP, the basic role-playing system, has... where is it? Here it is. Before Pulp Cthulhu, they came out with a pulp game called Astounding Adventures, and I think the print version used on Amazon's like $25, but I bought the PDF, and it's by Chaosium, and it came out in 2013. And I'll tell you what, for my solo games, their adventure generator, I think, is the one I use. Their adventure generator is really, really cool. And it uses a BRP system, you know, the system that fuels Call of Cthulhu and Pulp Cthulhu, stuff like that. But their adventure generator is really cool. They have a nice bestiary. And the thing I like about their adventure generator is it gives you the outline and you fill in the details so you can be creative about it. So I use that for my solo play. And they have some really good sample adventures in here that you can run, some cool handouts. I mean, it is Chaosium, so, I mean, you know, it's good stuff. But it doesn't pretty much you have Pulp Cthulhu, which is mostly pulp cosmic horror. This is straight up pulp using the BRP system. And it is really a good product that I like, and I use probably the most out of all of my pulp resources for my games. So that's Astounding Adventures, published in 2013. All right, now next up is the Atomic Robo role-playing game, which I believe also uses Fate, which I'm not a fan of, but I am a huge fan of Atomic Robo. It was an online comic book, and he has since come out with printed volumes you can find on Amazon, and also big omnibuses. That the most recent one was up on Kickstarter, and he's in the process of fulfilling it. He ran into some glitches. But Atomic Robo, if you don't know what Atomic Robo is, do yourself a favor and go read Atomic Robo. Read it. All right, so he's got a role-playing game here. This Atomic Robo, I mean, is pretty much, he was created by Nikola Tesla in the 1920s or so, or whatever. And it hits all of the pulp. It hits all of the pulp. And he has lived through the years, and he belongs to the science team. Like, he has a Tesladyne. They work at Tesladyne, and they go around the world saving the world. And it is just really cool. Cross fourth dimension, telling stories the Atomic Robo way. I just don't know what else to say. If you've never heard of Atomic Robo, you just have to go read it. It takes all the pulp stuff, turns it on its head, even has a Western. Like, it's just one of the greatest things on earth. Atomic Robo. He's up there in my top 10 favorite characters of all time, and that's saying something. You know, so they have a lot of stuff from the comics. There's 2 or 3 titles from the comics. And like I said, I had to have this because I love Atomic Robo. Plus, just the background and stuff for the Atomic Robo stuff is awesome. So any Atomic Robo fan should have this Atomic Robo, the role-playing game. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Fate system, but this could be easily adapted to your favorite system. And Dr. Dinosaur, oh my gosh, Dr. Dinosaur is the coolest. you just have to look into Atomic Robo. I'm telling you, do yourself a favor. Brian Clevenger, genius. Scott Lang, just genius. Yeah, got to do it, man. I think he even wrote a little introduction. Yeah. You just Atomic Robo. Do yourself a favor. Get into it. All right, next up, Amazing Adventures from Troll Lord Games. You all know I'm a huge fan of Castles of Crusades. Well, this uses the Siege Engine system, Amazing Adventures. This came out in 2015. They apparently just ran another Kickstarter to update this out of the OGL as well as into, you know, just to help make it even better. It is chock full of stuff. I have the bestiary over there for foes. I have a bunch of their adventures, and they're great, and I use those. The only thing is that it is an amazing resource to pull inspiration from. Fiction, you know, and it uses basically a D20 style system using their, basically it's Cast of Crusades, but turned into the modern / pulp. You can go science fiction, modern, pulp, whatever with this system, 1800s Victorian era. It's basically their universal system for modern stuff. Psionic powers, magic, spells. I have not run it. A, I haven't really had the opportunity to. B, I've kind of moved towards D6 systems for most of what I'm doing, with the exception of Basic Fantasy for my face-to-face game, and I'm still playing 5e as a player in an online game. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, it's just a lot. There's so much that if I were to run this, it would probably hurt my head, but it is awesome. I love it. I love reading it. It's got some really cool ideas for secret societies, all kinds of stuff. So that is Amazing Adventures. But they came out with a Kickstarter for Amazing Adventures 5e for the 5e D&D system, and which they've recently now, they are no longer supporting because of the whole OGL scandal, and they decided to go back to the Siege engine of theirs with an all-new Amazing Adventures, which I believe is in the process of being published. And so they upped Amazing Adventures to the 5e. So if you got a 5e group and you want to try to run pulp or science fiction or a modern system, you can look no further than this one, Amazing Adventures 5e, which piggybacks off of the world's oldest role-playing game's current incarnation. So that's Amazing Adventures 5e and Amazing Adventures Siege Engine game for the pulp era. Great stuff, really cool stuff, great presentation. I really love it. Next up, 2015. Oh, by the way, that was Amazing Adventures 2015. The 5e one came out in 2020. Next up is another minimalist pulp game using a single D6 called One Dice Pulp. There's a whole slew of One Dice systems. This one by Nick Clements, but One Dice system is designed by Peter Cakebread and Ken Walton. And it's a really minimalist system. I have run solo games with this for myself, and it's just a teeny bit too minimalist for me. But yet at the same time, it does have an interesting amount of depth. So it is pulp. They have their archetypes, how to play, you know. I like their approach to gadgets, so that is that. Healing isn't easy, you know, more modern approach. They got a bestiary, huge and super creatures, stun points, equipment, usual, gadgets, experience system, good decent gamekeeper section, how to play different game styles, what to do with pulp characters, how to run pulp adventures, how to give experience points, mooks and minions, pulp damage, tougher characters, blah, blah, blah. So all the pulp stuff is in here, thus making it a cool pulp game. They even have their own little background in their own world in 1930s. A lot of these games are based in 1930s, which, you know, that is cool. So Antarctica, Egypt, it gives you some just a really cool plot threads that you can follow through on and get your characters out there. I also mine this one quite a bit for my own solo adventure, pulp solo adventure. And then putting skins on, I really like that. You can do, you know, turn it into a Cthulhu game. You can turn it into Popeye the Sailor Man there. You know, Sanity and stuff like that. And then what's another skin? Let me give you an example, another skin. Science fiction, yeah. So there you go. That is One Dice Pulp. Fun little system. And moving on, that was 2015. And then another PDF-only game is the Pulp Hack. Now, obviously, I played the Black Hack on my one series where I played single-run Dungeon Delves. And it uses the Black Hack system, but applies it to Pulp. And it's a fun little system. I played a solo game of this, and it pretty much is a D20 system, roll under. And just like the Black Hack, it has usage dice and stuff. Adventure, Prime Investigator, Master Vigilante, Jungle Master, Mystic, Scientist. You know, so enemies, very simple, just right there, just much like in the spirit of the Black Hack. But it is a pulp game that I had to own, and thus there it is. And that was 2016 that came out. All right, so the next one is Pulp Cthulhu, which I have in the PDF form, so I'll bring that up real quick. Where is it? Let me see. Yeah, so I have Pulp Cthulhu on PDF, but I bought both of their hardcover campaigns, the Cold Fire Within and the Two-Headed Serpent, because it's just, I mean, it's extremely pulp, but it's also pulp horror, right? And this came out in 2016. This Two-Headed Serpent game came out in 2017. So, you know, it's Chaosium, man. I mean, you know, they're knocking it out of the park these days. So it just gives you an entire long campaign. They got 2 of these, as far as I know. That's the only 2 they have that are massive adventures for Pulp Cthulhu. And, you know, it's your usual Chaosium quality. And it came out in 2016. I mean, I remember there being like, not controversy, but like, when's it going to come out? When's it going to come out? It took them a long time to finally pull it together, but they did. And so here you go, Call of Cthulhu, Pulp Cthulhu. Give it a second to render here. It's not all blank pages, I promise. Yeah, so, you know, they do a really great, you know, what are the pulps? They go through a lot of that. They give you lots of good information on running pulp games. You know, and then usual, they worked in the Call of Cthulhu rules into this book. It has 274 pages. All the kind, you know, the kind of characters that you create, creating pulp heroes, all that stuff. So that's Pulp Cthulhu. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you're into role-playing games at all, I know you've heard of Call of Cthulhu, let alone Pulp Cthulhu. And a lot of their cool adventures I mine for my own pulp games. So here you go. It's like sample adventures and so forth. That's what I'm talking about. So that's Pulp Cthulhu 2016. Then I found this little gem not long ago. Raiders of the Lost Artifacts. Okay, put up by Night Owl Workshop. Original edition compatible. Raiders compatible. There's a game called Raiders of the Lost Artifacts. It is pretty much, it goes hard on the whole Indiana Jones thing and searching for lost artifacts and so forth, which is fine by me. I bought it primarily to mine it for ideas from their bestiary, as well as they have a really good section in here. First of all, there's, you know, they have a nice amount of creatures, different kinds, but they also have some really good villains and some really good items and so forth, like things to go find. So I'm using that in my own solo pulp games for inspiration. The occult, I think they spelled that wrong. Occultist spells, sample adventures on where to go find the stuff, optional skills, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but it runs on basically BX system, like D20, old school essentials style BX, basic expert D&D rule set, but with the Raiders of the Lost Artifacts skin applied on. It's actually a very good book. It's got some really cool stuff, some random generation tables. Like I said, I like the Astounding Adventure ones a little bit better, but ultimately someday I may use these as well because they have some really good inspiration. They have a really good bestiary. So, and it just looks cool. It's just really cool. Just a little bit nostalgic, but also really cool. So there's Raiders of the Lost Artifacts, and that came out in 2017. Okay, Two-Fisted Tales. Coming up here. So this one it's Two-Fisted Tales 2nd edition, and it's put out by Presses Intermedia. I have a couple of their sci-fi games, but of course I had to buy it because it's Pulp, so I got this on Drive-Thru RPG. And you know, it's well presented. I'm looking at eventually buying this one in different kind of pulps. I'm looking at buying this one in a history of pulps. I'm looking at buying this one in print eventually. It's just that my money needs to go other places right now, but eventually I'm going to get it. What's New in the 2nd edition. I don't even think I got the 1st edition. When I stumbled upon this, I was like, I wasn't in a place to buy the 1st edition when it came out, so I just said, well, by the time I was ready, the 2nd edition came out. So it's pretty much like all these pulp games, you know, and it basically runs on their 2d6 system. But I can't remember exactly how their system works. You roll 2d6. I don't know if you multiply stuff. I don't remember. But like I said, for most of these games, I don't play them for the systems. I buy them for the lore, and I collect them because they're pulp, and I love pulp of all forms. Yeah, villains and monsters. So it has its regular stuff. Extras, experts, assassins, really cool art. I really like the layout of this book. That's another reason I'm probably going to buy it in print eventually, so I can, do a nice read out on the back porch now and then. It's just really cool. So that is Two-Fisted Tales by Presses Intermedia, and I strongly suggest it for lore and so forth. The role-playing game of thrilling pulp action. That came out in 2019. All right, another Savage Worlds. Another Savage Worlds moved game is Pulp Fantastic. And this one feels more a little bit like GangBusters-ish, but it does also throw in the rest of the pulp stuff. But it's I love the layout of it. It's pretty cool, but it runs on the Savage Worlds engine, and it came out in 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. I think it's 2019. And nice little introduction. What is Pulp Fantastic? Pulp by Jonathan Nichols. So a little bit of fiction. Kind of set the stage for you. Different areas. The fiction runs through different areas to kind of give you an idea. Pulp World Gazetteer. This is pretty, actually pretty valuable for somebody who doesn't necessarily, or is not really into history. This will give you a really great shot at what the world was like in the 1920s and 30s. And so that's really good. Another really good source book that I don't have here in this list is the Pulp Investigator's Handbook by Chaosium for Call of Cthulhu. That one has some really good information on the 20s if you want to set your pulp in the 20s. So all these different countries and what they were like during that time era is very valuable for writing your own adventures. And that's another reason I'm really glad I picked this one up, because it kind of surprised me when I got it. I was like, yes. So then the Pulp years gives a little timeline of our world in which the pulp stuff would happen. So all the way from the 1900s, how far does it go? 1930s, 40s, into World War II? Yeah, pretty much into the 1940s, looks like. And then character creation, so, you know, usual stuff. Let's see what else. I think they have sample adventures in here too. Multiple lances. Yeah, it's got some really good stuff to pull from Lost Lands and all that. I mean, so does most of this other stuff we looked at, but ultimately it does it really well, I think. So that is Pulp Fantastic, and that came out in 2019, 2020, and it runs on the Savage Worlds engine. All right, now, those of you, excuse me, those of you familiar with my channel know that I ran an entire series using this system, which is one of my favorite systems, one of my favorite designers, one of my favorite companies, Gallant Knight Games. So Tiny Cthulhu. All right. So I love the minimalist, but yet feels great playing at the table. You saw me run Tiny Dungeon 2E on my other series, where I ran one-shots for fantasy, but I have an entire 12, I think it's 12 episodes featuring this system. But though it's Pulp Cosmic Horror, it has the Tiny Pulp variation right here in the core book, and I ran an entire series using that, so you might want to check that out. It leans harder into the cosmic horror stuff, but the pulp stuff, I mean, you can pretty much ignore the corruption mechanic if you want and just go straight up pulp. The system works pretty well for pulp, so I strongly suggest this one if you're into minimalist games. And it's just, look at that art. It's just awesome. So that's Tiny Cthulhu. Since I ran an entire series, go watch some of the series just so you have an idea of how it runs, and that'll give you an idea of how cool this game really is. And that came out in 2020. All right, then another Barbarians of Lemuria game system, using the Everywen system, Simon Washbourne's Barbarians of Lemuria, Pulse Pounding Pulp. So this is someone else's approach to pulp, using the Barbarians of Lemuria system. 2d6 add things, hit a difficulty number. So this is Pulse Pounding Pulp. Once again, I bought this mostly for the lore and ideas that I can mine. The artwork is great. I'm not, I've never really gotten into the Barbarians of Lemuria system. I'm sure it's a fine system. I just prefer other systems. It is a D6 system, so you know me and D6 systems. A nice bestiary, different NPCs that you can use, adventures, some really cool adventures. So a whole bevy of different pulp adventures that you can pull from and run in your own favorite system, or even in this system if you really like this system. So for Hellwood. So I mostly got it because of the adventures and so forth it has in it. Plus, I mean, look at that cover. It's cool, right? So very pulpy, and there you go. And that was 2021 that came out. I'm going to throw in a game that is not technically a role-playing game. Pulp Alley is a miniature skirmish game, but it is very pulpy. and they have some really cool ideas for characters and so forth. But it is a miniatures game. It's not an RPG, but the characters can improve if you use their campaign system. This is the quick start. I got the quick start for a couple bucks just to check it out, mostly because it's pulp. And then I guess while I'm here, I want to mention Arkham Horror, the card game, LCG by Fantasy Flight Games, is basically a role-playing game with cards. But I didn't add it on here. But I added this one because it's very pulp. Pulp Alley. It's pretty fun, and you can run some really good combat. The system's pretty good. I have looked at the system, read the system. I have not played the system, but I thought I'd just throw it out there as an additional shout out for somebody out there for miniatures players with a little bit of RPG in it. So that's Pulp Alley 2021. The second edition came out in 2021. Then for all you Year Zero engine fans out there, you know, Alien and Walking Dead and what other licenses do they have? Oh, they're Dragonbane and so forth. They licensed their engine out to this guy, Christopher Gray, who used the Zero engine to create Temples and Tombs. I kickstarted this, and I got it. I have the PDF in this book, and it's a really different. I mean, you know, the whole it has a really interesting approach to the pulp. It leans heavily into Indiana Jones, much like Raiders of the Lost Artifacts. Still pulp though. Gives you an idea of how the game works, how to create your own stories. It's very cinematic. It goes straight to the action. You know, that's one of the keys to their system and how they run all their other games as well. You can run it 2 or 3 ways, like straight to the adventure, or you can make it a little bit more campaign, and they call them stories, which I like. And you can create, it has a D66 random determination, which you all know I'm a fan of the D66 random determination. But this also is a really good tool for creating your own solo adventures, or creating your own adventures for the guys at your table, the people at your table. Has some really good information on even supervillains, different places, has some good adventures, Spetsnaz, you know, Sky Zeppelin and Valley of Yesteryear. So yet another adventure that you can pull from and use in your own games, or even try to run this. I have not tried to run it, but I have mined it for ideas and used a little bit of its random generation and its adventures for my own solo adventure. So that's Temples and Tombs, role-playing game of action and adventure. Very pulpy. That was 2021. Okay, so next up is Broken Compass. Oh no, did I put it into this folder? I don't know. Let's see if I can bring it up real quick. So Broken Compass is, I hope it's here. May have put it on my other account. No, darn it. All right, well, I may have to go to my other account anyway. So Broken Compass is by Simon Games, which, you know, they're very famous. They're very known for their miniatures games, board games, Zombicide, and all that stuff. Well, they came out with a role-playing game a while back called Broken Compass, and why can't I find it? And I believe it has been changed now to just had a very successful game found or whatever. So it's not in here, really? All right. Well, I'm sorry, I can't find it. I thought I had it all set up and ready to go. Anyway, so Broken Compass is very focused a lot on Indiana Jones style adventures, and it uses a system that is put together by a group called Two Little Mice, and they came out with the Outgunned Adventure game that just like broke like tons of records for crowdfunding. I backed it at the PDF level. I'll be getting that soon. I'm going to go to drive-through real quick, see if I can download my copies. Sorry, bear with me. I just want to show you what the covers look like at least. You know, it's kind of like the next generation of pulp role-playing, I guess. So Broken Compass, I got like the quick start rules. There they are. I own it. So this is Broken Compass. Like I said, it's a very interesting system where you roll dice and you're only looking for matches, like doubles, triples, for they have to match, and then that's how you get successes. So I think that's really pretty cool. So it's a Broken Compass rules. And then Outgunned Adventure is pretty much the same thing, only taken up about 30 million notches to all pulp. And I'm really looking forward to getting my PDF delivered to me eventually. I mean, the artwork is amazing. These guys are an Italian company, and that's the cover right there. For the quick start rules, we got that you get the quick start rules when you backed their game system, and it uses pretty much the same system I explained in the Broken Compass game, but this one is going to be full on pulp all the way through. And let's look at the preview here. Yeah, and we'll look at that real quick. Oh, I may even have to download this. Oh well. So this to give you an idea what this game looks like. It's pretty cool. Adventures, to adventure, how to roll dice, traps and dangers, and then an adventure since it's quick start. So it has that all for you. I'm waiting for it to render. So that is Broken Compass and then Outgunned Adventure. Broken Compass came out in 2023, and Outgunned Adventure kickstarted in 2024. Probably will not be released until 2025. So it's a pretty slick presentation. It's pretty cool. If you're interested in that, you go ahead and get it. I'm gonna add the full on. Game to my collection here soon. See if it's still down here somewhere. It looks like I may have taken it off this tablet. Show you more. That's all right. Okay, so that was Broken Compass and Outgunned Adventure. And then my newest acquisition, just 2 days ago, is the Arkham Horror role-playing game. I am a huge fan of the Arkham Horror system, the card game. I've played the first edition board game. The board game is too much for me. It's just too much. Even the third edition, second edition, it's just too much. But I went nuts for the Arkham Horror living card game. It's a solo co-op game, and it basically is a role-playing game with cards, as I mentioned before in this video. And this just came out a couple days ago, has great production values, and it is Pulp Horror, which, I have several of those games in my collection. It takes place in the 1920s in Arkham, and frankly, this is a really good introduction, I think, to role-playing games for people who are not into role-playing games or board gamers. If you have a board gamer in your family and they're familiar with the Arkham Horror games, this would be a great game to buy them. A, it's aesthetically pleasing as heck. B, it's very pulpy, but also very horror-y. It's got some great maps and so forth, and it uses D6s. So I'm not going to do a complete unboxing. It has, like, some tokens and so forth. It even comes with a Game Master screen, D6s in a little pouch there, character cards, NPC cards, monster cards. It's just a really slick presentation. And I bought it a couple days ago. Came in at my FLGS, Infinite Realms, out in Girard, Ohio. So check them out on Facebook. Anyway, so I'm really excited to learn to play this and then run it for my students in my Tabletop Game Society, since it's a very good introduction to role-playing. And I'm going to put it out. Hopefully I have it ready to go by Halloween. It's perfect for Halloween. And it's also very pulpy, but it's also very cosmic horror-y. So that's Arkham Horror, the role-playing game. Okay, so now, one last thing. My next video, I'm going to be introducing my own Pulp RPG. That's one of the main reasons behind this little presentation. And I'm very excited about it, and I hope you come back to see what it is and check it out. And it might even be something you might be able to download for yourself up on itch.io. So that's the announcement. I'm using inspiration from all these games that I just showed you, and I created my own system, and I love it, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. So tune in next time to see it, and until next time, keep on rolling dice and playing games. Mage Hammer out.